looks like you need someone to pat you on the head and tell you you'll be okay. It's okay. It's okay.
It's not your fault.
It's okay to not be okay.
I like the fact that you've just jumped the "Are you okay?" question to making an assumption.
I know you're not okay. I don't need to reinforce. I respect my time. My assumption is you're not okay. Oh, that's bad. Interestingly, here when we're recording this, we've just clicked over the financial year. So we have a mid-year end of financial year in Australia. And so it's essentially New Year's Eve for business owners, which is, July 1st, we start the slate clean. There's a chance to plan. There's a chance to think about what are our goals, new quarter, new possibilities, new excitement. And it's, I think for some, when you're going through a sort of coming off a great year or a great financial year, people have got momentum going forward, which is great. We're on the right track. We're doing this. And then there's others who have, this was a horrible financial year. What do I need to do? And it was interesting because we talk about this when we sort of meet up with, founders and CEOs and discuss some of the, I guess, mindset approaches to the start of the next journey or climbing the hill again or climbing the mountain again, because we get a lot of people talking about, I feel like I had great momentum and then it feels like I'm starting again versus I've had such a difficult year and I've still got to climb the mountain. And I think one of the things that's served us well over the years is a mindset around what does the end of a financial year mean? What does the start or end of a quarter mean? How do we get planning? How do we sort of take high performance approaches into operating a business?
Yep.
And I think one of the things that's been good for us to explore is this mindset of detachment from the business, and detachment being, and we ask the question to other business owners, is if this was your last year running the business, would your approach be any different to knowing that you were in this business for the next 10 years? The reason I find that question interesting, and particularly to hear the answers of how people approach it, is we look at it as if your behaviour, knowing that you had only 1 year left of running the company versus 10, differs, are you actually running the company as the most effective leader now? And so where this sort of came from over the years was most people see their business as a life sentence.
Yeah.
And when you see it as a life sentence, it's, I'm just going to go through the motions. So there's a cadence that people are operating with, which is, this is what I do this week, this month, this quarter, and so forth. But it's actually a very dangerous place to fall into, which is a cadence that's not serving the acceleration in which you desire for your company. And I'm sure you've seen it, Nigel. We saw it back in the fitness days as well, as you get comfortable at a certain, I'll say weight, but it's not the indicator of
a certain feel.
Fitness. It's not a judgment, but people generally have a natural body type or feeling that they go, this is my body
image.
Not good enough. And it's comfortable. We used to see it with people who go through training. They do a boot camp and drop a lot of weight, and then a couple of months back they'd be straight back to where they are.
Yeah.
They didn't have the behaviours or changes that set them for a sustainable level of performance, or where their desire was to either lose weight or get fitter or whatever it was. And I think it's very much the same, which we see in a lot of businesses, is people essentially accepting a cadence they've got because they're also around a lot of people, which is, businesses just take a lot of time to grow.
Yeah.
I know you've seen a lot of that in, you're out there talking to, hundreds and hundreds of businesses every month. Tell me, how do you view that? Because I think this whole idea of understanding your cadence, or where you feel you're humming, where do you see that? Because you obviously look at that and you're in a difficult position of always being in growth, and so you push. But how do you balance operational effectiveness in terms of cadence of how you operate versus sprinting like a lunatic and essentially just collapsing?
Yeah. I think you're asking the exact wrong person.
Yeah. And this is an intervention. Yeah.
Again. Oh, I think
I spat my coffee on myself. Yeah.
how do you solve it? I think the thing a lot of people
Or have you approached it?
have approached it, yeah, because I've definitely not solved it. I think awareness is a very key part of it because as humans, I reckon that we naturally find the Goldilocks zone. It's where not too close to the sun, not too far away. It's the perfect thing for you to grow over a long period or just at least sustain. A lot of people, I think, push the wrong triggers. So they'll go, I'm too comfortable here. They'll realize it and go, I want to grow. And then they'll push the sales lever up by 50%. So they do these massive sprints and cause all these problems. It's not sustainable and it can't keep happening. That's the cycle that I see most often. It's people kind of falling in and out of the Goldilocks zone. So they're sitting here, they start falling down. They go, oh, huge amount of sales activity, bang. Now we're too busy, got to drop back into it.
But just on that, because I think it's not only, people who are in smaller businesses that are, say, doing a sales or growth sprint, because they want to get excited and do that. But equally in bigger companies where you sort of set a goal for a quarter together or a sprint or some sort of new initiative, and then try and from that initiative make that the natural operating rhythm ongoing. And we've seen a lot of organisations burn out.
I think that's a cheat.
People where it started off as a fun thing where everyone's going extra effort and then that now became the norm. And I'm not suggesting that you don't try and aspire to high performance, but it's a really interesting approach.
Yeah, but you don't tell a runner that they're about to run a 100-metre sprint and then go, actually it's a 5K, that you got to keep at the same pace.
Exactly. And I think this is, we see this a lot because it actually mentally destroys people quickly, but it loses the fun of actually playing with operational rhythm.
Yeah, well, it loses the fun of the sprint because when we've done sprints here before, they are actually quite fun. Like we went all out and decked out the office in a theme, all of those kind of things. There were prizes to go. You go, well, I'm happy to up the level for this period to achieve an outcome.
Yeah, totally.
But when that becomes the expectation afterwards from an owner down to employees, I reckon that's so unfair, and I think it happens a lot.
I agree, and for those who just sort of trying to understand it, we do, but there periodically now is run themes for a quarter. There might be something we're trying to do as a business or a milestone or something. So we try and make it fun, and we basically have a scoreboard and have a metric, and everyone contributes to it, and there are prizes for everyone or as a team.
Yeah, and generally it involves Nerf guns or weapons of some kind
there's
for some reason.
There's always fun things like that, and so we it just keeps a little bit of interest in a quarter and going there. Not that culturally people need to do that, but it's just trying to create a little bit of differentiation and spice in your normal working environment. But I suppose the reason we bring this up is when you're looking at your next 12 months, albeit if you're here in Australia or anywhere else in the world, wherever you begin, there's this I believe there's this mindset for 99% of business owners and people building their companies that they'd like to sell, but they pretty much see them doing this business for ages. And that mindset can be very dangerous. And it's not about not enjoying your business or using it as a commodity. There's nothing wrong with working in a business for your whole life if it's doing what you need it to do, you're loving it, and the business serves dual purposes, which is it's earning, it's contributing, and you're getting fulfillment. Great. But you've got to question your operational rhythm. And particularly when we look at, say, smaller businesses, people going through different lifestyle changes essentially dictates the cadence, understandably. Something's going on, so the rhythm of the business drops. We've all heard the CEO analogy, chief energy officer versus, just what you should do. And this is an important thing of how does a CEO affect the energy of the business, and how are you approaching this year of the business? So if it's just more of what we're doing and we'll see how we go, if you're employing that CEO for your business and that person to run your business, would that person keep their job? Yeah. And I think this is the big conversation is how do you calibrate the level or the cadence that you should operationally be going for the next year. And as we said, if it was your last year of doing it and you had things you wanted to achieve, what would be the things you would put on your to-don't list? Yeah, and I suppose that's a good conversation for today, Nigel, is if it's a year to go, what gets put on your to-don't list?
Yeah, it's fun. It's the first time you've asked me, because we've had this discussion previously. It's the first time you've asked it in that way. Like, it's always, what would you do? Like, I've always interpreted it as what more would you do, or what would? But actually, taking stuff away is probably more beneficial in a lot of the times, because we tend to junk up our time with these tasks, and then we go, okay, clear them out to who they should be, but they keep coming back. So, what would I take away? It would be that I would have to sit down and look at what have I not looked at in a long time that I just take as habit of the things that I do. So whether it's a networking group or an activity or a task within the business, that it's just something that I've always done. And because we've grown through small business, like the first few people accumulate a bunch of things.
Yep.
And then you just go, well, that's mine, I do that. And you don't think to question it, because you just go, oh no, that's what I do. But actually taking away bits and pieces, small pieces from everywhere would invariably free up so much time.
Well, but it's an essential growth tool.
Yeah.
And this is when we talk to CEOs that are going through rapid growth companies, it's probably one of the harder behaviors they need to change, because they generally got through the first few stages by doing everything, grabbing everything and contributing everything. And then the irony of it is it's so essential in the early parts when you are under-resourced, you don't have the expertise around, and you learn everything and do it yourself. And then reversing that habit, because it's exactly the same thing that stops you going any further. And it's the same for every team member that you see them going through. They used to have to do everything. The business has more resources, or their job, requirements become a lot narrower. So the things they used to contribute to, they no longer need to contribute to, because there's someone whose job it is to do that. But you can feel isolated, or your opinion doesn't matter as much because you used to be able to be across things. So you actually then feel, and we've seen this before in many companies, is people who used to have the same feeling as a founder would, who work in that business, is because I used to be across everything. Now I only focus on one thing, and it's very difficult because it feels like you're being shut out. But actually the business is just maturing. Yep. But particularly for a founder or a CEO, as they start to move forward and actually have to not trust that things are getting done properly, because there's a whole management philosophy is you don't let go of things, you trust and verify.
Yeah.
And that's what reporting does. You can actually see if what metrics would indicate that things are working. But you have to let go, or you cannot grow. And, this is a really interesting thing of us. I mean, probably it's online, but we were lucky enough many, many years ago to have dinner with Oprah.
Yep.
And it was interesting hearing her take on this, because she was talking about she now runs a network. I really like that's a casual drop of just, how stretched as we're having dinner with Oprah. But she was talking about she used to sign off on every check, I think at the time was under $500, give or take $50, $100. And she's running $1 billion network. And she only, after 23 years or something like that, I think was the time frame, she just moved that up to 1,000. And she was saying her own thing is she still wants to be across finances. It was one of her triggers, and how she feels that money's well managed in her businesses. But you can imagine the weight of operational knowledge you need to have of your business and time you need to spend doing things like that. But that was her style, right? And you could argue that it's worked absolutely perfectly for her. But it's also understanding that the great thing about being a founder is you get the opportunity to decide what you do and don't want to let go, but you have to know that whatever you retain, something else has to balance that out.
Yeah.
And so you have to let stuff go at some stage, particularly if you're looking at your time frame being a year. Your actual job in that, and most people, as soon as you ask them that question, which is, hey, Nigel, what would you do in a year? And as you said, what would I remove? And then it was my question to you. The question then should proceed to, how do I become redundant in a year?
Yeah, nice.
And if you ask that question, and this is where I think one of the secrets to all great performers in a company are if I can make myself redundant, this business is going to be far more powerful. And most people worry about becoming redundant because redundancy means I've lost my job.
Mm-hmm.
Where redundancy in a fast-growing business or a founder saying, how do I become redundant in every one of these roles I don't want to do, means your business is scaling.
Yeah.
And this is the counterintuitive thinking we need to have when we're in business growth phase, or you've decided that I actually don't want to spend more time in my business. I actually want my business to provide more for me and my family. Might be one of your things. Great. Same question. Where can you make yourself redundant in the next 12 months? So in 12 months, how does this business become fully operational or semi-autonomous? And I'm not saying let go and don't concentrate and don't like it, but most people think this idea of having a business that's working for you is a mythical beast. It can never happen. And the problem is they're hanging around too many people that it will never happen to. But this is what a business is. It's an entity that serves a purpose, serves a customer, and generates income for you and your family.
Yeah.
Great. Most people are going, I have to work hard in order to justify earning money, and then we'll do it again next year.
Yeah.
And then are confused by why they're so burnt out, stressed, and hate their business.
It's funny though, just the different way of phrasing the question fired off differently. So you're going, if you've only got a year left in your business, what would you do differently? My brain is kind of seized up a bit.
Yeah.
But you went, if you had a year to make yourself redundant, my mind went, oh, I'd do this. Like, it's just an easier way into that question. But you're talking from that founder standpoint, the decision to what to let go and what not to. It's very, for an employee or someone that's senior in a business, there's always someone that can give advice down. Founders generally, I've been lucky, we've been in partnerships or working together closely for a long time, but a lot of founders stand solo. That's a really hard thing to actually answer for yourself without being able to bounce it off somebody else.
Technically, if you approach it in that way, it would be, because you're asking yourself questions that essentially don't have an answer just yet. So you can send yourself in an infinite loop of thinking and get quite overwhelmed, which is what most people do. So they just go back to the status quo. The idea, and let's frame it back to, is, and this is employees too, we should be encouraging our employees to make themselves redundant. What we need to explain is what redundancy means. So versus, hey, you're redundant, sorry, I'll give you a package, you're leaving, versus your redundancy means you've stepped up a rung to be now managing people. The business has grown in a way in which you can become redundant, or your value is exponentially higher because you've been able to manage yourself out of a role, systemize it, put someone else in, and elevate. So and this is where most people miss the point, your value in an organization is exponentially higher the moment you can make yourself redundant. If the business doesn't appreciate that, your market value is also exponentially higher. Okay. So actually you're building your social capital, your professional capital, regardless of whether that business, because you may outgrow the business. If you're someone who can keep making yourself redundant in an effective way, don't get me wrong. Some people see themselves, I'm redundant because I told old Jenny over there to do my job and now I'm redundant. No, redundancy is my position is systemized, it's managed, it's operating, and it's the outcomes have been successful. And it doesn't require my input anymore or management, completely redundant. Now what's my next challenge? Those people are rare, and they are the top performers and the top earners, because they don't need management. They need to know what to do and they get it done. They become so valuable that a business can't afford to get rid of them.
Yeah.
some people take that as I can do whatever I want to disrupt the whole business. So the real skill in it is being able to operate in a cultural environment that doesn't blow up the whole company while you do it. Because we've seen people in teams that come in and go, I'm going to completely do this my way. And all it does is put everyone offside, makes the rest of the business, there's no integration of harmony. There's just a blunt stone. And those people become redundant in the other way, which is we don't want you anywhere near business and your market value drops dramatically. But for founders, to your point, who are sitting there and saying, well, I don't even know where to start, the best way to start is try and become redundant in the tasks you don't like doing.
Yeah.
Because if you can get rid of the tasks you don't like doing, then you'll start getting to other ones. Or the magical thing that happens is now you've got more time, you start doing things that you more enjoy about your business and probably why you started the business. You eventually get addicted to wanting to do more of that. So you find more things that you're happy to let go. The difference is when you don't have those things or the time to spend somewhere where it's giving you, people would be able to relate. I've had those days where it didn't feel like work. I enjoyed it so much. I came back and, why can't that be the norm? And that should be the first milestone you're aspiring to is how do I have more of those days? What stops me having those days and how do I get rid of them? And this is the point. Not over 10 years is how do I make myself redundant in a year? Or how do I get redundant in these 5 tasks that I do habitually? And they don't need to be the same for everyone, but I need to understand how do I shift the way we operationally move in this company by being aggressive in the things that I'm not that good at. Okay. And the problem is if you're good at everything, then you're in real trouble. Because you'll be the ones that's the toughest to grow because you can do everything.
Yeah.
Some of the best businesses we've seen and the fastest growing businesses is the owners going, I'm just no good at it, so I got someone who knows what they're doing and now we're good.
Yeah. It's amazing how often that comes up. I'm the simplest guy in the room. I just want other people to tell me and grow.
I know what I want. Yeah. Now I've got to see if someone can deliver it, but they become scalable quickly because it doesn't rely on them.
Yeah.
So this is the big sort of idea that you should have at these milestones is what are you actually doing every day to make yourself redundant? And if you're sitting there listening and saying, I don't want to be redundant. I love my business. That's exactly what I don't want. Nobody said you had to leave your business or not do it. It is your business is now in such a strong state that you can do a lot more with your business.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Would you seek to make yourself redundant from Backable?
100%.
Yeah.
Redundancy is not, I don't want to not be a part of it. Redundancy is, let me flip it slightly because it'll answer the question better. Right now, if you were presented with the opportunity of a lifetime for the business and it required a month of your total focus, effort, and it was it was a location that wasn't close to your business. So you actually had to get out of the vicinity. You couldn't be contacted. It's an opportunity that could change the entire business, get you everything you want.
Yeah.
How would you deal with it if you're not redundant? So if the business isn't set up to operate without you, what would you do?
Yeah.
And so the problem is, and this is where I think a lot of people miss the point, is they say, but I'm happy doing what I'm doing. Great. But if an opportunity required your time, energy, effort, and total focus, and it was a game-changing type of opportunity, would you even be able to give it 100% effort? And if the answer is no, then your business is danger or not set up for the next phase. And this is what we have to start understanding is redundancy is not about not wanting to work. Redundancy is making sure your infrastructure and strength of your core company is great so you can start taking the bigger risks or experiments or exploring things in a number of ways, so your cash flow is more flat in terms of, consistent, or, people can deal with client challenges, or when issues come up, the less that gets escalated to you. But this idea of most people don't focus on that. They just allow the business to operate and then go, I've got some more time, or we've got more resources, we'll try that. You never get that momentum of being a rapidly growing company.
Yeah.
You just become reactionary to what's happening to you in the business versus I'm proactively taking away the things that I know can be done better by someone else, should be done by someone else, or will allow me to be freed up to look at the opportunity for the company tomorrow.
So turning the question back around for you, if you had that 12 to 18 months, what would you do differently at this point? Or would you do anything differently?
I think we operate that way at the moment. We're in a period, and a lot of it, we're pretty public with where we're at. We're in a period of establishing our go-to-market, our market fit, getting that feedback. It's frustrating and exciting and all the things at once. For me, it's knowing that if I wasn't here, what would stop? And there's a couple of critical things at the moment that I think I need to be across at this juncture, as in making sure the brand, the values, the product is servicing where I think the opportunity is, and then being able to judge it based on the experiments we run in the market. But the reality of it is where should my role really be? And my role should not be completely focused on things that others right now could do quite easily. So having an opinion on things that we're now establishing the core, which I think there's another 6 months of that. But after that, that needs to be set up well enough that we can trust people in those core areas of the company to also put their spin on where we're heading. And that's for me, I don't think we'd operate differently, but that has to be the focus.
Well, let me ask a different question then, because we've got I would say an excellent team around us. Like, it's taken us a good time to get it. You have a team of people that want to sprint, that want to go as hard as possible all the time. How do you manage that from the leadership point of view and ensuring that they don't burn out, or putting the right caveats around them?
I do want to just put a caveat over the top that I'm not talking directly to our team, because I think that's the nuance of it there. But as a general thought, the enthusiasm that a team has that wants to sprint, get out there, feels we can contribute is one of the most excellent things you can have. People who are generally enthusiastic about your product or service and doing that. And I believe we've got that here as well. The challenge, and I think the balance is while everyone's excited, we actually haven't allowed the pressure part of it yet, which is to go out and sprint when we're not ready and not get a result. You don't get to miss. When we go and we're ready. So no one gets to be cavalier. We're running enough experiments with that, but it's like, hey, I just want to email our database of 10,000 people. Oh, 3 replied and now 9,000 unsubscribed. That's cavalier and gambling versus systematically going, we're ready for the next piece, So some of those signals aren't strong enough yet. Yeah. And that's from a number of reasons, not necessarily product, just in terms of putting the infrastructure all around. For me, it's making sure that you keep feeding the enthusiasm of the excitement of what we're doing, but making sure that we don't trip up our people and they do something and then they lose all that enthusiasm and excitement. Because if you keep stacking small wins, suddenly they compound, and then you can take slightly bigger risks, or there's a reason to take a risk because there's evidence to support the risk and downside. So for us, it's just navigating this piece at the moment, which is not to quell enthusiasm, but to harness enthusiasm to give milestones that you can go as fast as you want by hitting these milestones. Yeah. And if people are enthusiastic to want to go and take over the world, great. Then these next milestones should be so simple, because you get to prove me wrong. Do this, this, and this. Go for it. If you haven't done this, this, and this, we're not even having the conversation. And I think that's the sort of excitement, which is the enthusiasm is wonderful. Yeah. Now, and it's actually the opposite of making them redundant. If you really believe that we could be going faster, anyone, great, hit these milestones. If you can't hit them, then it's a delusion. And so you need to work back from the delusion and go, how can you want this if we haven't even been able to show this? Because it's in any role you are in any business, if you can just keep ticking off the milestones that show progression, you just keep getting backed. Yeah. If every time you do something, you've got enthusiasm, understanding, knowledge, know-how, and you never get a result, you're not trusted. You can't be, because you're doing everything but getting a result. And so if you can't get a result, why would anyone back you? And that's the thing you have to calibrate. Some people go back and go, why is the result not going? Or worse still, what does a good result even look like? Versus, I did a lot of effort, I want to do this, we want to get there. I'm like, that doesn't work like that. So I think there's that balance there of founders, looking at how they're running their business and how they're back to their cadence of enthusiasm over 12 months. We want to sprint, we want to go, we want to get as much market traction as we can, and also, but not missing the milestones. And I think, particularly in Backable, we run the, not personality, but leadership trace analysis, the leadership analysis that we go into deeply, and you get the full report and podcast on your behaviors, things you exhibit, the understanding of your own thing. You're actually going through that and understanding what are the psychological approaches I have to different situations, and working through how they affect you. Because most people miss the nuance on why they keep getting the same lessons repeated or the same problems coming up in their business. And it's coming down to when they get into situations of familiarity, they do the same thing every time and then wonder why the same results keep popping up.
Yeah. It's a hard, what am I trying to say? That falling back into old habits and old patterns is particularly in times of stress. They did a study where people that had gone through trauma, they tend to rewatch the same, like binge watch the same things over and over again, because there's that familiarity, they know what it is. Pulling somebody out of that cycle, and does this sort of framing it around this question, because I'm looking at this question now going, well, if I only had a year to do what I want to do in this space, whether it's through redundancy or exit from the business.
No, you're still talking an exit though. I'm suggesting redundancy is no exit. It means shifting up a level of your area of expertise. So most people are trying to entrench themselves in job security, and it is the absolute way to slow down growth. If you haven't moved in a year, you've got to ask yourself, what did I do this year? Or am I the person who's got the enthusiasm to want to grow in a bigger business? Because you haven't wanted to move. You've wanted to wait for the business to grow and you to be pulled along. In a smaller business, that might happen in corporate. Time allows you for progression. In smaller businesses, particularly founders listening, you can't do that. You actually have to leave the people behind that don't help with that growth, because we don't have those resources or infrastructure in place. You actually need the people to help you elevate. Some people won't do it. They're waiting for a bigger business and expect them to lead it. So if I'm sitting in a role, my role would be is in the last 12 months, what have I done that's moved it? Why am I still required in this if I have ambition to keep rolling? So the question then becomes, it's not about an exit, is where is your role in 12 months and what role do you want to play? And if the answer is I'm not sure, then you probably need to recalibrate that if you have ambition, because the business will bypass you and it won't be able to wait for you to catch up. Right now is the opportunity. But tomorrow is like, right, we need to bring in this person above you because we need that skill set. So you when you've got a foot in the door, you're already in the company. That's the beauty of being able to perform and take the role wherever you want it through your performance, your growth, your output, and doing it. So everyone should have that same mindset of where I want to be in a year. Now, it doesn't mean some people need to take over the world. Some people's job is I want to do this next year too. Great. But others who've got ambition in the company, you should be worried if you're not making yourself redundant in a role, because it actually means I don't have the next level of leadership to be able to have a team under me or run a new department or open a new area, because you won't be able to be trusted with that because you can't exhibit it in your area of expertise. How on earth could you be given anywhere else? And that's it's probably a harsh reality, but this is the counterintuitive thinking, particularly for founders, but also key people in a small business. One of the great opportunities being in a small business is to accelerate and grow and get opportunities to learn and do things that you wouldn't get in a larger organization, because we're taking more risks, we're trying things, the speed of stuff. If you choose not to try and do that or look at how I am in that, well, you've missed your opportunity, because you can build your professional capital in that environment by being a star.
Yeah, it's having so just around that bit about ambition and having a lot of leaders in a company, like companies do need people that want to play their role, that want to be brilliant in it.
80-90% of them should, or want to, or in a good mix.
In small business as well, like in growing businesses.
Yeah, 100. Yeah, absolutely. It's not about growth. It's not about, also when I describe someone wanting to, if you're looking at your role, it's not necessarily ambition. It's, you may love what you're doing and you should do more. But for people who come in and saying, hey, if this was my last 12 months in a role, what would you do? Giving yourself that option, just because you've made yourself redundant in a role in terms of it's systemized, I could have someone run it now, I could, the way it could be managed, the way it could be produce consistent results, doesn't mean you don't have to do it. You might have there and go, this is just an easy job now because I've got it on rails. I know a couple of people that were brought in on senior roles in family businesses, and within 2 years they'd essentially made themselves redundant, but they were still in the role. I was having lunch with them and was just sitting like, shouldn't you be running this? You're a pretty senior person. Like, why would I need to be there if all my people are doing exactly what they need to do and everyone's contributing? My job is to make sure nothing's dropping. I go, aren't you getting bored? And they go, a little, but also this is the bit of a 2-year sprint to actually go, let's make sure it's now I'm giving enough space for people to contribute without me hovering. And so there's everyone's going through this same thing. It's redundancy is a difficult word because it has the connotation of not being there. I talk about redundancy as in that role doesn't require you, so you can take the next opportunity in the business or whatever you want to do.
Yeah. Just while we've been talking, it's been kind of sitting in my head going, what would you do differently if you only had a year left in the business? I was thinking, bringing it down into what would I do differently on a weekly basis if I only had 4 days to work?
Yeah.
Because there's that, is it Parkinson's law? Like your work expands to the amount of time that you applied, that you given to it?
Yes, I'm not sure if it's Parkinson's, but yes.
Yeah, so it's similar to
I
that.
understand,
But so give someone an hour to do a job, they'll do it in an hour. Give them a week to do it, and they'll find a way to do it in a week. So I go, where am I padding my week unconsciously? And going, like, and I'm one of those busy people.
Yeah.
Like I do a lot, and that's part of it. But I go, well, if I could achieve that in 4 days, what would that extra day let me do?
Well, if I challenge you and said, we knew an output or result we needed, if you can do that in 2 days, take the rest of the week off. Yeah. Would it change behaviour? And I'm not suggesting, because we're in a stage of everyone's doing things and filling their time, but it's exactly what falls into particularly smaller businesses is the work's there and everyone just feels, as you said, pads the work out, not because they're not working hard, but it's just a natural thing to go, I've got this much work, I can do it, and you get in back to that natural cadence. Yeah. That's the type of challenging that absolutely should be happening. So, we've seen studies around the world, particularly during COVID and post-COVID, is there was no productivity lost of a 4-day week. Yeah. And here we are back at 5-day weeks. So how does that work? And, the reality of it is do you go two ways as a founder? Hey, how do we fill more capacity, get people working harder? Or is it just better to give everyone some time if we know what outcomes we need? And we're not there as a society yet because people don't know how to operate, but I'm meant to pay you for 5 days or a role or whatever, which is the ridiculousness. I mean, we're going through in our city at the moment, just the government's mandate, nothing like Victoria, making sure that they tell you how to live your life. But funnily enough, I'm not totally against a few things around this work from home and understand, because I think we're moving into a more we should be working more flexible. Technology should allow us to be more flexible in our living. Google are amazing at it. They allow people to work from anywhere type stuff. So it's filtering down. The big tech companies, albeit there's probably a basis of being competitive in how to attract talent. They've had to do it, but it should filter down, right? This is not slavery. It's people are working. If we can get the job and people are enjoying their lives more, well, let's do that. But this idea of how do I challenge that before it becomes law? How do I challenge what would a 4-day week look like? Yeah. Or what would a 3-day? What would total flexible times? And of course, some industries aren't set up for that now. Don't get me wrong, it's just a thought. It's it's a thought process versus, the practicality of being able to institutionalize it. But equally for others, I mean, I was once upon a time doing a project for a client in a warehouse, and they had a rostered, I think it was 12-day fortnight or something like that, whereas basically a Thursday and Friday off every 3 weeks or something like that.
Yep.
But there was zero change in productivity. In fact, they actually worked an extra hour. So instead of an 8-hour day, they did a 9-hour day, a split shift type thing. And everyone agreed on that because they got an extended, every 3 weeks, it was like a 4 or 5 day weekend. And so these things that worked for them, and their productivity was amazing. People were much happier. They loved the flexibility. They retained staff more. For us as founders, we've got to work out what that does for us. Like some founders get to a point of, should you be at work every day? Once you start making yourself redundant, should you be out there doing some other things, shaking hands, kissing babies type thing? But you've got to start to be in different areas, go to potentially conferences or industry things that you wouldn't normally have time for. So there are things you need to do. But back to this whole, if I only had a year, what would need to change? The first thing you want to bite off is, what can I reduce?
Yeah.
Where can I reduce, and how do I be more effective in an area where I'm not involved? Because if your only mindset is, how do I make this area of my business or life more effective without me there? Well, you essentially become that employee you're always dreamed of, someone who can get something, fix it, systemize it, get it performing and move on. You become that. And that's what makes a great entrepreneur, is not holding on to those things. And that's generally where we see growth really start falling off for most businesses, is every founder gets to an idea where they start gripping on again because they feel like they're losing control, the speed wobbles or the fear constraints. And generally that's what either allows a business to grow fast or constrains it to slow down. It's essentially all around the founder, and it just helps sometimes to go back to, if this was my last year, how would I deal with this situation? You wouldn't take weeks to think through something. You'd be more deliberate in decision. And if the decision was right, you'd do more of it. If it was wrong, you'd do less of it. So getting to those moments with clarity of, I don't have time to dwell on it, becomes a very powerful operating rhythm. And I guess that's what we're talking about, is the mindset of heading into a new year or a new financial year for your business. How can I play a game to enjoy a sprint, but enjoy a deliberate way of approaching every day that will give you that enthusiasm that I'm not in a life sentence. The next month is this, and how do I operate at a different level of excitement, and how do I become more deliberate in my
I actually hadn't,
actions?
the way you just sort of described it, then I hadn't considered it like going as a life sentence. There's a weight that goes along with that. So if you're only ever looking at it and go, I've only got a year here, I get to enjoy it, I get to be excited about what I achieve in that, and then go, I get to choose another year rather than I have to do this for extended. That's of course going to grind you down because you can't see an end point to it.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's the magic in it is, I used to talk about giving myself 6 months, 1 quarter for results, 1 quarter to either fix the results or exceed the results or choose whether I should still be the leader of that company. That's probably extreme, and it was more a thought idea for me to keep focused. But if you literally think you're in this for the next 20 years, you will naturally do it as a marathon.
Yeah.
Where if the mindset is, this may be my last quarter, what do I want to do? What do I want to get involved in? What do I want to make a decision? What's the phone call I've been putting off for a month because, if they say no or so, you become like, well, this is the only time we'll get to talk about it, so I'm going to try it. And you become aggressively purposeful in terms of every action you're taking because you've got the timing on it. It's like if I go to a growth team and I say, hey, here's all your leads in your CRM. At the end of the week, I'm deleting them all. There'll be no trace. But anyone you convert in the next 4 days, you're going to get this bonus.
Yeah.
How do you think behavior changes?
Everyone's on the phone straight away or in the car.
Yeah, and
or
I'm not saying
it
it's
is.
like because they're not working hard, but sometimes playing with these ideas that when it feels like a grind, the mindset of a grind is because I haven't put an endpoint or a way I'm going to behave or what I'm trying to fix, so I can see myself, I'm not dealing with the same problem again. I'm dealing with it because I haven't quite worked out a way to make myself redundant from it. And so I'm actually fixing it to engineer a long-term outcome for myself, not just, this thing again.
Yeah. Well, everyone needs a finish line. Like it's something to run towards.
Exactly.
And in a marathon, you've got the markers,
but think
like
about
the mile
for yourself.
markers.
Do you actually have a clear finish line of what's next, where I'm going to progress, what I'm going to do, what is that? Like you actually sit back, and we're pretty deliberate in a lot of things we do, but I would argue that unless it's clear in your head personally, then you actually are a bit in the grind and you haven't thought about it. You're just happy to wade through mud.
Yeah, you go through those periods where you just get head down, and some people need an external reminder, or it comes up and goes, oh, actually, no.
Yeah.
That grind can actually reveal a finish line for you sometimes. So,
yeah, absolutely. But if you can become deliberate with it and go, because you take back the power of how you perform versus it being a byproduct of something might occur from this versus the being deliberate in your approach every day, just changes your mindset around excitement. I'm not just going to the gym because I have to do the gym every time for the next 3 months. I'm going because this is my next goal. I want to do this, or I've got an event, or I've got whatever it is, versus I come to work and go, great, in the next few weeks, this is what I want to fix. It's this one thing, or I want to do this, or I want to try and get this off my plate forever. What would I do? You get to start enjoying engineering the life you want, because then you suddenly turn around and go, wow, I've got rid of 10 of the 50 things I really don't like. I actually like this a lot better. Yeah. I've got more time, or I've got more energy, and then the momentum starts to build in those things you've built for yourself.
It's funny this has popped up today because I've just spent the entire morning automating a process that's been something. It's the podcasting, editing, and all those kind of things. And as coming from a creative background, previously it's always been, I'm really good at this. I love doing this. Yeah. I loved setting up the automation after trialing it for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, because it takes away all the things that I'm not great at and leaves me in that little place that I love, which is actually, no, this is the message. This is the bit that I get to watch and just put the fine tune on, but I don't need to do everything else around it.
Well, it's the evolution from being your pride goes into being the genius in your area. So, because that starts to define your personality, like I'm the person producing these podcasts or this creativity or these ads, to the architect of it. And the architect is where you become the more powerful person because you can influence multiple things at once. So enjoying the transition from performer to architect is massive for not only your own personal enjoyment, but scaling of that area, because it's required or we will never break through. And that's, I was speaking to a friend of mine who owns a company, and he was going through these proposals that he does, and he puts all this stuff together, and then I'm like, what are you doing? How long does the proposal take? It was like 2 days. I'm like, what? I said, I got to refine this. I'm doing this. And he was doing some stuff on Illustrator at the time, blah, blah, blah. And I said, just as an experiment, the last proposal you sent, have a look on Freelancer to see if someone can tidy up your work, because it was tidy up, not redesign, and it was great. Anyway, it worked out for, he was spending 7 or 8 hours, and we got it outsourced for $13, and it was great for that person because they were using computers and other expertise, and was they didn't have the same emotional attachment to it, and he'd get it back in a couple of hours. Yeah, and it didn't take them a couple of hours. It was like, no, it's a 20-minute job for it. And it was great for everyone. But he'd been doing that for 6 months, 100 proposals. And so he was so close to it that it became so ridiculous and so easy to fix. But it's coming back out of, if he was trying to make himself redundant in that role and valuing his time, he would be exploring these things because there is no other choice. Yeah. And as soon as you give yourself choice, it means that I think I'm going to be here for an elongated time. Yeah. So there's no point even trying to fix it right now.
And I think that the choice or the excuse used to be more acceptable, in that I don't know how to do this, but I don't know how to do that. Looking at how we can utilize AI at the moment, like all you need to know is know what you want to achieve and work with something, and it can create something that half the stuff I created this morning I could never do 5 years ago, 4 years ago.
Absolutely. The barrier of entry to getting this right. I mean, obviously we've got an agenda with Backable, which is, it does it. Yeah. But there is no more, it doesn't matter what position you are, whether you're the owner, whether you work in a business, whether you've got the ambition you've got, the barrier of learning, understanding, and accessibility is going to be is already transformative, and we're only at the beginning. Frightening. The excuse is now I'm choosing to step out of confronting where I want to be and taking the steps there, because now I can see a clear path on what I need to do. Now, whether you do that work, that's a completely different topic, but it's a glorious time to then to be able to choose how and what and how you want to work, and that's the excitement. And whoever utilizes that first is absolutely going to have a advantage, particularly in the next period of time as the whole world goes through this massive change.
Yeah. I'm going to explore the 4-day work week.
Great. I've got no issue. I'm outcomes first. If you can do a 1-day work, I'll high five you.
Perfect. And that's on tape. So
excellent.
Cheers. Thanks, bud.